bring in our next guest. He's just launched a bid to be the next Speaker of the House because the job opened up. I don't know if you heard. He's now in the exclusive interview with Congressman Jim Jordan. Congressman, great to see you. You were on the fence the night of the ouster. What changed your mind to say, I want to be Speaker?
You need someone who can unite the conference, and I think just as importantly, unite the conservative and Republican movement across this country. That's what I think I can do. That's why I'm running for the job. I like the job I had. Chairman of the Judiciary Committee, Chairman of the Select Committee on the Weaponization of Government, doing the work there. But I do think we have to have someone who can bring our team together. I think I'm best equipped to do that. The 8 people who voted in a way that I disagreed with, we got to bring them into the fold. I think I'm best equipped to do that so that we can then go do the things we told the American people we would do for them. And the first thing I would focus on, the very first thing I would focus on is one sentence: no money can be used to process or release into this country any new migrants. You have to change the equation. You have to stop what's going on there in Texas and across our country. That is the first bill we should do. Attach that to a spending bill and get that done for the America. And everyone knows this is the central issue. Eric Adams, the mayor of New York, is in Latin America as we speak because this problem is so big. We need to address that. We need to get the Democrats on board to do what their constituents want them to do as well.
You shouldn't be penalized for the good job that you did on judiciary because people, Americans, the Republicans, love to see what you're doing to go after the Biden family and get to the bottom of what they have done with their taxes, if they've done anything wrong, if it was pay for play and all of that kind of thing. But if you do leave, if you become Speaker and you have to leave judiciary, what will happen to that committee now? Will those investigations still continue?
They sure will. We've been working with the Speaker's office all along. Many times you have to consult House counsel when you're doing all these depositions, all these subpoenas that get sent out. So we've had that already happen. If, in fact, I get the privilege of being the next Speaker of the House, we will continue to work with the team on judiciary and oversight and ways and means as we do our investigative work, as we do our constitutional duty of oversight of the executive branch. That will continue. In fact, I was in a deposition 2 days ago with the U.S. Attorney from the District of Columbia, Matthew Graves, who declined to partner with David Weiss. I was in that deposition when all this was happening here in the House. So, yes, that has to continue because that's our job.
You know, Mr. Jordan, that moderates have said, they've been very vocal, they will not vote for anybody unless they change that rule on one vote can get somebody vacated from the seat, which is essentially how the Capitol coup happened the other day. So moderates want to change the rules, but for conservatives, that is a deal breaker. So, and there is, I was reading this morning in Axios, I believe, there is expectations are at rock bottom that the civil war between the many factions of the Republican Party can be fixed by next week.
Well, we have to fix it. And I said this on the House floor on January 3rd when I nominated Speaker McCarthy. I said it a couple days ago. Any differences that exist in the Republican Party pale in comparison to the differences between us and the radical left, which now unfortunately controls the Democrat Party. We had better stick together. We had better come together to fight for the things that make our country the greatest nation ever and the things the American people elected us to do. Again, I think I can do that. If the conference wants that rule changed, if I'm Speaker, I'm not going to go to Democrats to get that done. No way. We will have to decide as 222 Republicans, are we going to change that? That's the only way it gets done if that's what the conference wants. So that's something that has to, again, you have to bring the team together. That's what we have to focus on so that we can help the American people and do what we said we were going to do.
Lawrence?
Yeah. Congressman, I'm here with the folks from the great state of Texas. They want to know if you guys are going to start fighting for them. Like, the unity is okay, but at what cost? Are you guys going to start doing the things that y'all said y'all are going to balance budgets, getting this crime under control, the inflation that's wrecking them, and of course, the border has hit Texas so much. So what is the plan to get the caucus in line with the conservative agenda that all of you guys ran on?
You take the case to the American people. You tell the American people, we've passed so many good, we've already sent over the border security immigration enforcement legislation. You go to the American people and you say, tell the United States Senate to take up that legislation. Now, they might amend it, they might make changes to it, then it comes back, you go to conference committee, and then you have a final package that you vote on. That's how our system works. But we got to take the case to the American people so they put the pressure on the United States Senate to do their job and get past the things that we need to get past. And in divided government, we're not going to get everything, but we have to go fight for what we want so we get most of what we want or part of what we want. But right now, we're not getting any of that because they won't take up the legislation. They won't do their job. So that's how our system works. The greatest system ever. It's cumbersome, but it's the best. Let's use the system that we have, our government system, our legislative system, to get those things done. We've already sent it there. Take up the bill, Chuck Schumer. Deal with the legislation, send it back to us, and we'll figure out the differences and get something done for the American people.
So Thomas Massie, Darrell Issa, Mike Carey have all said they're going to support you right off the bat. So why are you better than somebody I know you like, Steve Scalise, who seems to be the next in line?
You're right. Steve Scalise is a friend of mine. It's Kevin and Steve and I. We all came in the same Congress. Steve's an American hero. But again, I think I'm better equipped to unite the conference, bring the conservatives along that I'm close to with the moderates. I've had great conversations with the moderates. Jeff Van Drew. Jeff Van Drew is supporting me. Jeff Van Drew was a Democrat 5 years ago, switched parties, now a great member of our conference. He's supporting me. I think we can do that. That's what we have to do so that we can get to the real goal, which is those things we told the American people we were going to do for them.
You know, we've watched Joe Biden. He came out of Afghanistan and told everyone that was a success. Then with the border, he says it's not a crisis. It's secure. The border's not open. And now they're saying we have to build a wall. They ran on never building a wall. We will not build a wall. And this morning, you have his team, Mayorkas, is saying there's an acute and immediate need to construct physical barriers and roads to prevent unlawful entries. Why change his tune now?
Because Democrats are telling him, because the problem is so severe, the problem is so serious, they're now doing the right thing. They're now doing what President Trump said we should have been doing all along, what we were doing. So that's how bad this situation is. And again, if we can pass the legislation that I think fundamentally changes the equation, when we say you cannot use American tax dollars to allow any more migrants to come and you stop the problem, and then you deal with what's happened already, that's how you fix things. And so that's what we need to do.
Well, let's talk a little bit about aid for Ukraine, because there are a number of conservatives who say in your conference that they will sink any candidate for speaker who does support aid for Ukraine. So where are you on that?
I've been clear all along. Why should we be sending American tax dollars to Ukraine when we don't even know what the goal is? No one can tell me what the objective is. Is it some kind of negotiated peace? Is it driving them out of the eastern Ukraine? Is it driving them out of Crimea, which they've had for 10 years now, or they took during the Obama administration? What is the objective? And so until you can tell me the goal, I don't think we should continue to send money there, particularly when we have the problems we have on our border. So that's fundamental. I just think that's front and center. And then second, how is the money that's already been sent, how has it been spent?
Right.
What kind of waste is going? Those are two fundamental questions that I think the American taxpayers want to know the answers to before they send any more of their hard-earned money there. Particularly, you're sending money there to protect Ukraine's border when we got the situation we have on our border. So those are the fundamental questions that we should get answered before we even think about sending more money.
Lawrence?
So, Congressman, the last two times I remember talking to you before, you said you didn't want the job. You didn't want it. Many people tried to get you to run for the speaker's post. So why now? Why is it the moment for Jim Jordan to lead the conference?
Because somebody has to bring our team together. Because if we don't come together, we're not going to get done what the American people know needs to be done, what's good for our nation. Somebody has to do it. I think I'm equipped to do it. That's why I'm running. I think I'm equipped to go take the message to the American people about why what we're doing is so darn important. It's really, those are the two fundamental questions. Who can unite the team and who can go take our message to the people? That's what this election's about, and I hope my colleagues will support me. And that's what I'm asking and talking to them with all day long. So much so I'm already starting to lose my voice.
All right, so Congressman, let me ask you a scenario. You're trying to get these appropriate. You become speaker next week. The appropriations bills aren't done. The deadline is here. Do you do a deal to keep the government open for an additional CR? Or do you do a deal with Democrats? Or do you let the government shut down?
I think the first thing you do is you pass the bipartisan bill that's in the Senate. We take that bill up here in the House and we pass it. It's the No Shutdown Act. Senator Langford, Senator Hessen have that bill. It's good legislation. I like what Senator Langford said about it. He said, look, this is like if you don't get your work done in school, you stay after class and get it done. That bill says if we get to the end of the fiscal year, we haven't done the appropriations bills, the government stays funded, but we stay here round the clock until we do our job. That would take this whole shutdown politics, shutdown scenario, shutdown stuff off the table. You do that, and then you focus on the legislation. And frankly, if we need some kind of continuing resolution or some stopgap measure, I think it should go all the way into next year. I told my colleagues this because the way the debt ceiling deal was done, if you do a spending bill into the next year, there's an automatic cut that kicks in. And that's an incentive for us to get our work done and focus on the policies we want on the 12 appropriation bills. That's the strategy, in my mind, the only strategy that makes sense. And that funding bill that goes into next year, everyone's voted for that. The Senate, 2/3 of the Senate voted for that, 2/3 of the House voted for that. Joe Biden signed it. So that's something everyone supported. If we do that and have that 1% cut hanging over everyone's head, I think that's the incentive to get our work done, get our job done, and let the system work the way it's supposed to.
Just quick follow-up. I can't believe you would accept the job without that one vote margin to vacate. It's suicidal. I mean, he had 210 votes supporting him, and now he's out of a job. It's impossible to keep 218 people happy all the time.
It is what it is, but I think, again, we have to, as a conference, as Republicans, figure that out. If I'm Speaker, I'm not going to go to the Democrats and make the change because they're going to want some kind of other agreement on some other things. Right. I think you have to work that out with your party. As I've said a couple times, I think I can make that happen if that's where our conference wants to go.
You have some people like Congressman Jimenez who's saying unless there is some sort of a reform or a motion to vacate, he's not supporting anyone. But I did want to ask you about President Trump because he did say he's open to being Speaker. He technically could be Speaker, I guess. I mean, you were reading this morning an article that says...
Yeah, you guys have a rule that if somebody's facing felony indictments where they could go away for more than 2 years, they can't do that. And of course, he's got all sorts of legal peril. You would have to change the rule.
You'd have to change the rule. And he posted a picture. It was Donald Trump with a gavel. This is what he said yesterday. Brian was watching and he said it was funny because the reporters were asking him questions about what's happening in the courtroom. And then as he's walking away, someone asks him a question about, would you want to be Speaker? And he turns around and he answers the question. I think we have the soundbite.
A lot of people have been calling me about Speaker. All I can say is we'll do whatever's best for the country and for the Republican Party. Would you take the job? A lot of people have asked me about it. I'm focused. You know, we're leading. I don't know you. I'm sure you don't read too much in the papers. But we're leading by like 50 points for president. You know, my focus is totally on that. If I can help them during the process, I would do it.
My focus is on being president, but if they need help with this process, I would do it. And then we'll show you the picture that he posted with the gavel. What's your reaction?
I think President Trump wants to be president of the United States. That's what I want. I think he's the best president we've had, certainly in my lifetime. Did more what he said he would do than any president I can remember. I want him to be president of the United States. I think that's what he wants to do. And I think that's what's going to happen because the country is so fed up with the policies of Joe Biden. I think President Trump is going to be our nominee. He's winning by, I don't know, 40, 50 points. And I think he's going to be our next president. He's beaten Joe Biden, and I think even an ABC poll like a week ago by 10, 11 points. So the country knows his policies worked. I think he wants to be president. I want him to be president.
You also know that the White House and the DNC tweeting out all sorts of stuff about the chaos on the Republican side. The Democrats, and you know this, the Democrats would love it if somebody introduced into nomination Donald Trump, because Donald Trump could probably get every single Democrat to vote for him to continue the chaos, and he'd only need 5 or 6 Republicans. Next thing you know, he's got the hammer.
They would be on record for voting for Donald Trump, the Democrats.
And they would love it because the chaos would continue, they say.
Yeah, we need to come together as a conference, as I said, because right now the country, the crime problem, we did a field hearing in Chicago, the crime problem is so severe. The immigration border security problem is so severe. The inflation is so severe. Let's come together as Republicans and address what the American people want us to address.
Lawrence?
Yeah, I'm just curious, Congressman, how do you unify the caucus? I've talked to some representatives that said they didn't hear from Kevin McCarthy. So how do you get both factions, the conservative wing as well as the more moderate wing, to come together? And are you already calling these folks? Because I thought it was pretty ridiculous that the speaker did not know how some of his members were going to vote. That means you're not talking to those people. So are you talking to the folks there?
Lawrence, I made more phone calls yesterday than I think I ever have in my life in any one day. So yes, I'm talking to all our colleagues all the time. That's just part of this process. So you tell them who you are. I mean, they know who I am. People on our committee know how we run our committee. When I was top Republican on the Oversight Committee, now top Republican on Judiciary Committee, and you use that example, say that's how we will run the House, or I would run the House, and work with our team. You just have to build that trust, and I think we've done that on the committees. That's what I want to do for the entire conference.
Real quick, you would know when you came in as a disruptor, the Freedom Caucus, John Boehner would always be clashing with you. Have you changed? Or has the Congress changed that makes you now seem like you want to be more of a unifier?
I was fighting for the same things 10, 12 years ago that I'm fighting for now. I've been involved in every major investigation in Congress, it seems like, over the last decade. The IRS, when they were targeting conservatives, I was on the Benghazi Select Committee. I was one of the Republicans helping defend President Trump during the crazy impeachment 4 years ago. So I'm the same guy I always was. What I have really figured out is if we don't come together, I don't know how you stop where the left wants to go. I love what Sarah Huckabee Sanders said in her response to the State of the Union. She said the divide in America today is normal versus crazy. And I think she was so right. Where the left wants to take the country is crazy. They want to defund the police. They want boys to compete against girls in sports. They think non-citizens should vote. They thought it was okay to let a Chinese spy balloon fly clear across the country and then shoot it down. I don't know about you, but the people I represent thought that was crazy. So that's what we got to stop. And if we're not unified, I don't know how we do it.
What did Kevin McCarthy do wrong?
I don't think he did anything wrong, and I disagreed with what my colleagues did. There was problems in the schedule and how we got to get to the appropriations. But Kevin McCarthy said we were going to pass the bills we told the country we were going to pass, and we did. Do the oversight, and then deal with this ridiculous spending, and that's what we're in the middle of right now.
Well, good luck mending that civil war that's going on inside your conference right now. Congressman, thank you very much for joining us live. Good luck.
Thank you.
Thanks, Congressman.
Thank you.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.